Hey friends, Shay here. So I am here to wrap up the reading month of the month of April. This month was bonkers. I read 16 books and 60 volumes of manga. Now, a lot of the manga I'm not going to be talking about in detail here because I've talked about them in detail in other videos. Anything that I've talked about these videos in will all be linked down below, so definitely go and check the links and check the cards to make sure that you're catching all of the important videos. So I am going to start with the books as there's many less of those this time, and then we will jump into the manga. And again, timestamps as always will be linked as well, so let's go ahead and dive right in. So, of the 16 books, only 4 of them were physical, so we're going to talk about the physical reads first, and then we will dive into the digital reads, usually either ebook or audio. So, the first thing I'm going to chat about here is The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert. I finally got a hold of my copy, and I read it, and I loved it and adored it. I'm giving this 5 stars. I know not everybody did. The world is bigger than Katie initially intended, and I can tell. This book was a lot more world building than actual romance, though the romance that we get is absolutely stunning. It's definitely marriage of convenience feeling, and it is moving on from a toxic and abusive relationship into something that's healthy and not knowing how to handle it because you've been in such a toxic relationship. Having lived that, I related to this very much. Just know that our dragon has 2 eggplants, and that's all you need to know. It's very Katie Robert. It's really fantastic. I cannot wait for the next one, even though it's a Kraken book and I never thought I'd read a Kraken book. Just know that I'm still very excited for it. And even in tropes I thought I wouldn't like, Katie hasn't steered me wrong yet, so I'm very excited for it. But yes, I do think this is worth picking up. If you are interested in picking this up, I recommend you do. If it sounds interesting at all, just grab it. Whether you want the more discreet cover or this clinch cover, I couldn't resist the clinch cover. It was too pretty for me. So there we are. Next on the list here, I have Almond by Won Pyun Song. Essentially, this is the journey of a young man. We follow him from when he's very young to the age of about 18. And in this, he has a disorder in which he doesn't know how to respond or relate to feelings. And so that makes interacting with other people very hard for him. So we see his mother try to make him fit a mold that doesn't exactly work, and a grandmother who loves him despite it and wants him to learn and grow and progress on his own. So we kind of see the dual sides of this, and then another young man kind of enters the picture and things move forward and progress again. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to say too much more than that because it isn't a very long book. But it is so powerful. It is so gripping. I highly, highly, highly recommend everybody check this out. I took this recommendation from the guys of BTS. They had it with them on one of their shows that they do. I can't remember if it was in the soup or not. I can't remember. I highly recommend it. I can definitely tell why they picked this up. This is by a woman in translation. I would specifically recommend trying it out in August, because that is Women in Translation Month. So I would definitely recommend it then. This one I did talk about in another video, but I'll just mention it briefly here. And that is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. This was our Tell It Again pick for the month of April. And though April and I both didn't love it, we had quite a bit to say about it in a short amount of time. So make sure you check out the live stream. It's linked up in the cards. And yes, it is a sapphic take on Sleeping Beauty. I felt like it needed like 50 more pages to kind of flush the rest of it out because parts of it felt rushed and others felt just right. So I think it just needed a little more page count and a little more time to fill in the gaps. And I think it would have been fantastic. But I give this like a 3.5. It didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but it did some things that rubbed me a little wrong. So, and then another one that isn't necessarily bad, but it did rub me a little bit the wrong way. That is Melt My Heart Cowboy by C.J. Carmichael. So in this, our hero has a sister who is on the autism spectrum. And because of that, he treats her in a way that is disrespectful to her, especially as an adult. And he continues to let one thing that happened when she was very young, like 7 or 8 young, lord over how he treats her. And yes, there is a big age gap in their ages, and he basically moved out of the house shortly after the incident in question happens. But because of that, he treats his sister in a way that isn't appropriate. The heroine does call him on this behavior, but still, the way he talks about her throughout just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, which makes me really sad because the rest of the story really is quite good. Essentially, he wants his sister to have a friend. He doesn't know how to go about it and how to introduce her to people because of her autism. And so this girl that he's been attracted to that works at the chocolate shop that he sees once a week, he ends up saying, hey, would you mind being friends with my sister? I just want you guys to try. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. And they do. They become bosom buddies and eventually sisters, obviously, with the way romances work. I liked their relationship outside of the dynamic with the sister. Like them together, the way they worked great for me. But it was hard to love the hero when he wasn't willing to spend enough time with his sister to learn and understand her. Because the only reason why he had to was because his mother died. And so, yeah, it's tough. I'm giving it a 3 because what it did right, it did really right. And what it did wrong really was pretty bad. So it ended up in the middle because of that. And I'm so sad because this was a gift for my sweet friend Christy. And she is adorable. And this was on my list. So she picked it out for me. And I was so excited. And now it's a bummer. And I'm bummed about it. But yes, I don't fault Christy for that. I still appreciate her gift very much. And I'm looking forward to the next buddy read when she gets some time. She's just settling into a new job. So I'm really excited for her and her new job, but I miss reading with her. Okay, let's get to the digital stuff because I read a lot of really good stuff this month. So I Married a Minotaur. I did finish it. 5 stars. I loved it. One of my favorite installments in the Primating Agency series thus far. And this takes place in the same world as I Married a Birdman. The Urus, I believe they're called. So basically the race that was previously going after the humans. And so the bird people had to come and rescue the humans. They're trying to civilize themselves. They have a new leader now. He's actually an albino minotaur, which makes him very unique in and of that himself. And so his romance ends up being with a human ex-con, and it's fantastic. I really love how it played out. Would recommend. The first book, it definitely isn't going to work for everybody, but I feel like since then, Regine Abel really has done well with the rest of them. The first one's the roughest sell to me. The rest was it's really been pretty great. So I'm really excited. And then I kind of went on a Mariana Zapata binge. So I read Luna and the Lie. Again, this does center a lot around cars. So if that's not your thing, you're probably not going to enjoy this one as much as some of her others. But I really enjoyed it. Solid 4.5, I would say. Little less car speak would have been great for me as well, but 4.5, still really good. Then I read Hands Down by Mariana Zapata, solid 5 stars, really loved it. This is a sequel to The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I really just had the best time with it. It was so good. It was that great Mariana Zapata slow burn, and I was just living for it. It was fantastic. I loved it. And then I read Dear Erin, and by Mariana Zapata, and Seatmate by Cara Bastone. I talk about those in my Vegas vlog, so definitely go and check that out if you want my thoughts. One was on the drive down, one was on the drive back, so they kind of bookend the video, so you can definitely check them out there. And then I went on another binge because there was a night where I couldn't sleep, and that tends to be when I binge a bunch of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I tend to save those for those insomnia nights for me, so I read Barbarian's Tease, The Barbarian Before Christmas, Barbarian's Beloved, and Barbarian's Valentine. All 4 of them were fantastic. All of them were each 4 stars for me. And I continue to really love and adore the series and Ruby Dixon and what she's doing with these characters. I just have the best time when I read these. Again, they're very similar plots all the way through. And I'm now at a point where I would spoil so much of the series if I told you even who the couples were. So I'm just not going to. But I'm really enjoying myself with the series, and I'm excited to move on to the spin-off series, the Ice Home series. I think that's going to be really fun. And then I did finish up a buddy read. Oh, I do have that physically right here, actually. A buddy read of Volume 2 of The Haunted Bookstore, Gateway to a Parallel Universe. Again, another really solid installment. Lindsay and I have really been enjoying these buddy reads. In the first one, we're following a young woman who basically runs a haunted bookstore, and then there's a boy who's kind of figured out how the realm that she lives in works, and he's basically coming in and questioning everything, and it's so fun. I really love it. It's emotional at points even for me. It's really fantastic. 10 out of 10 would recommend. All right, moving on. We went back to Mariana Zapata after I finished Seatmate, because this was the next audiobook, and that was Rhythm, Chord, and Malikan, I think is how you say his name. But this one is a rock star on the road style romance. Essentially, her brother's in a band, and she goes with him to help sell his merch because the guy that was selling merch for them was stealing from them. And she falls in love with the lead singer of one of the headlining band that her brother's touring with. And it's really sweet and really cute. And I think it was very realistic for the concept of what was going on. And so I would recommend checking this one out. But you have to know it's famous people with famous people problems. So there's that. All right. I've got 5 more to talk about. Then we'll wrap up the book portion. So 2 of these I'm not going to say too much about because I'm going to be talking about them in an upcoming video. And that is Counterfeit Love by Jessica Gadziella and Evil Twin by Katie Wilde. If you can guess what this vlog is, it's a theme. I would love to see your guesses down below, so let me know. Another thing that happened this month was I binged the dark Peter Pan retelling that's sweeping TikTok right now, and that is The Never King and the Dark One, both by Nikki St. Crow. These are fantastic. Parts of these books live rent-free in my head pretty often, and that's saying a lot. Because usually I read something I enjoy and I kind of move on, and my favorites tend to linger. And this one I can't necessarily call a favorite, but it's definitely gripping and compelling. And it's a solid 4.5 star. It is so good. I love it. I hate that I have to wait till October to finish out the trilogy because the last one's not out yet. But I firmly blame Megan from This Past Romance for reading it because she basically talked me into it. And these are so good. They are very dark, very taboo, reverse harem. That's all I really need to tell you. And yes, I really, really enjoyed them. Probably more than I should. And then last but not least for the book portion of this video is Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. This is the first book in the McLean brothers, I believe. And this is Big South's book. So if you've read anything by Alexandria House, you've heard about Big South or you've seen Big South pop up. So this is Big South's romance and how he met his woman. And I loved it. It was so good. Again, famous people level famous problems because he's a big rapper. And they meet because she's apprenticing with a guy who does custom jewelry. He orders a piece and normally the owner delivers it to him, but the owner wasn't able to go. And so she ended up having to deliver it. And he was just very much being a famous guy in that moment. And she basically chucks the jewelry at him and tells him he's a pig and walks out. And he's basically turned on by that because she's not afraid to tell him where the bear craps in the woods, and things go from there. It was really, really good. I'm not going to say too much more, but again, famous people, famous problems. So if you can't handle that kind of a trope, this may not be for you, but I really, really enjoyed their romance way more than I expected to. But I tend to do that with the Alexandria House. I tend to enjoy them more than I initially think I will. So with that said, that's the end of the book portion of this video. Let's move on to the manga. So really quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly show you all of the ones that I've talked about in other videos, and then we'll talk about everything else. So I read volume 17 and 18 of Snow White with the Red Hair, I Cannot Reach You volume 3, Deep Scar volume 3, Bite Maker volumes 3 and 4, Black or White volume 3, Kageki Shoujo volume 3, volumes 3 through 5 of Kimi ni Todoke, Cat Massage Therapy volume 2, My Senpai is Annoying volume 6 and volume 7, and Something's Wrong with Us volumes 7 and 8. All of those I have read in various live streams for the 30 and 30. So all of the live streams will be linked down below. I hosted a set, Tamika hosted a really long set, and Izzy also hosted a set on the last day. So I hosted the first day, Izzy hosted the last day, and then Tamika we did a Saturday where we did like 7 hours. It was insane. My battery's about to die, so I'll be back. All right, I'm back. So if the angle's slightly different, that's why. But yes, essentially, so I read all of those on the various live streams. They're all linked down below. And thank you again to Izzy and Tamika for hosting this with me. I love when I do this with them. It gives us excuses to just spend time together and chat about all things reading related. We also had Megan from This Past Romance join us on 2 of those streams, and then Ashley from Bookish Realm joined us for the last one. They will also be linked down below. I love all of these humans, so please go check out their stuff. They have fantastic recommendations, especially if you love graphic works. Ashley reads quite a bit of manga as well as comics and graphic novels, and everybody except Megan reads manga, so definitely go get some recommendations from them. Megan's book taste is really fun, so I definitely recommend checking out her channel as well. So I've got a couple of other videos where I talked about a few of these volumes of manga, so let's quickly talk about those. I did a dedicated review about A Galaxy Next Door by Gito Amagakure. This is the same mangaka who does Sweetness and Lightning, so definitely check that one out. And then I also did a Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts spoiler-free review of the series, so you can definitely check that one out. If you're a member, you get access to my extra spoilery thoughts as I read the entirety of these 2 on camera for them. So definitely check out that video if you're a member. And yes, if you're interested in becoming a member, it's always linked down below. I just have one flat tier where you give me a little bit of support and I give you early access to videos like this one and at least one member exclusive video a month. All right, so let's dig into all the manga we haven't talked about yet. So let's start with the digital titles that we haven't talked about yet. And the ones that I read at the bookstore, so I don't have physical copies of them. So anything I don't have a physical copy of, we're going to talk about right here. So first up, I read the first 4 volumes of Mr. Bride. This is definitely a reversed trope where he's more domestic than she is, but she's very go-get-em at work, and he helps her kind of take better care of herself. And their relationship is really cute so far. I'm really excited to see how it progresses. Then I read volume 2 of Doing His Best to Confess. This shoujo continues to be absolutely adorable. It's really precious to watch him grow in confidence in trying to talk to his crush. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. Another one on this list is My Brain is Different. This is the ADHD and other mental health-based manga. I think it's really an important piece, and it talks about various different kinds of mental health. I gave it a solid 3.5. I did not buy it for my collection at this point. I may in the future, just because I didn't feel like I needed it, but I do think it's important to read. So there's that. Hey guys, Editing Shay here. So I realized that I missed one. So the one that I missed was, I can't think of the title. It's right here. But it's a really cute one. It's a new digital first from Kodansha about a girl who's very plain Jane, nothing super fancy or exciting about her. And this boy who's the prince at school starts to notice her and hang out at night. But what she learns is that his body's being inhabited by an alien at night. So when he's sleeping, this alien takes over his body and he doesn't know how to get out. He's now stuck and he's relying on his first friend, this girl, to kind of help him out and make sure that he survives. And that this high school boy doesn't just force it out. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's really cute. Would recommend trying it out. It's definitely worth trying out the first volume to see how you feel. I like how she very much is kind of the awkward girl that nobody knows what to do with, but it's done in a way that's realistic and charming, not in the traditional, oh, she's only a little bit different than everybody else, and so, we're not going to pay attention to her kind of situation. It's all handled really well, and the quirkiness of the alien is adorable. I love it. Can't wait to see where this one goes. I have thoughts and ideas on where it'll go, but we'll see what happens. So, back to past me. Okay, the next one that we're going to talk about is Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible. This is just a really cute shonen Joe, as Daddy Weeb would call it. Essentially, this is about a boy who's pretty invisible to most everybody. I mean, the teachers know who he is, but most of his students don't recognize him, like his fellow classmates, except this one girl, Kubo, and she keeps drawing attention to him in one form or another because she has a crush on him. This did a very shonen thing in the last chapter, so I don't think I'm going to be owning this one. This is one that I'm probably just going to read as it hits my bookstore and kind of go from there. And then the last one for the I don't physically own it category is Blackguard Volume 1. This is one that I was really excited for. This is a man who's not afraid to die, who's basically battling in the zombie apocalypse. And, he feels like he doesn't want to die, but he fights like he wants to live. And so it's this juxtaposition between the two. I thought it was going to be really interesting, but it ended up just kind of falling flat for me. I was really sad and disappointed at how flat it fell because the art was absolutely stunning. I think this is a me issue more than the manga issue. So if Blackguard sounds interesting to you at all, definitely check it out and try it. I do know that you can get it digitally through Kodansha, or the first 2 volumes are in store right now, so you can definitely check them out that way. All right, let's get to the pile we haven't talked about yet. Editing me again. I forgot to mention all of the physical volumes I read in Vegas, so make sure you check out my Vegas vlog for the few physicals that I haven't talked about yet that are missing, but that you saw on my graphics if you've been following me on Insta or anything. So there are a few hanging in that vlog that aren't mentioned here, so make sure you check that one. So first up, I did read the first omnibus of New York, New York. This is a male-male romance based in the early 90s when people really are not accepting of male-male relationships. It is fantastic. It's really well done. And it's a really good discussion about what it means to be queer and what it means to embrace being queer. So it's really interesting. Would recommend. I'm definitely excited for the next installment in the series. Next, I read My Summer for You, which is technically the sequel to The Summer with You. A viewer named Michael gifted this to me. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciated it. And I did really enjoy this second installment in their story. In the first volume, these two boys are, quote unquote bonding over their love of movies, but really one is just tolerating the other's hobby to get closer to them. And it's cute. I really enjoy their dynamic, and they do bond over the movies that they watch together. And this is just kind of the next step in their relationship. And I really enjoyed it. Would recommend the series. Next is one that I love with all of my heart and soul, and that is volume 3 of The Girl with the Sanpaku Eyes. We finally got volumes in at my store, the store that I work at, which is Barnes & Noble, if you're unfamiliar or haven't heard me talk about it yet. But this is so adorable. I don't think it's going to be too much longer because we got a really great kind of resolution on this volume. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. So much blushing, so much cuteness. I just love them. And this was the school trip episode, so it was very, very fun. Next, we had the volume 10 installment of Living Room Matsunaga-san. There's only going to be one more volume. We see a lot of things resolving in this particular volume. Well, I can't say that's a spoiler. So there's one more volume. I'm really interested to see how it's going to conclude because of the way this volume ended. It's going to be really interesting. Next, I have Beauty and the Beast of Paradise Lost Volume 4. There's going to be one more volume of this one, and I'm very, very excited to see how it wraps up because now, it's definitely got all the excellent beats of Beauty and the Beast, but it also takes on its own story. So I'm very excited to possibly bring this in to tell it again. We'll see after volume 5 comes out. Next, I have Night of the Ice volume 10. There's only one more volume of this series. We are definitely wrapping things up. I'm very, very excited for the way things are going for Kokoro and our friend Chitose. And I just love this so much, but I'm a figure skating lover in general. So I'm very excited to see how it's going to conclude. Next up here, I have volume 3 of My Love Mix-Up. This is one of the most adorable series I've ever read. This is about kids. Like, basically, this is the adorable, sweet shoujo version of Blue Flag. If you loved Blue Flag, I think you'd really enjoy My Love Mix-Up. It's a little bit softer, a little bit easier to read, to handle. Emotionally, it's a little softer. But yes, I still love it. Would 10 out of 10 recommend the series. Next, I have Kaiju Girl Caramelized Volume 5. In this one, things take a very interesting turn, and I'm really interested to see where it's going to go from here. There's at least one more volume, but we're kind of rounding out the arc, so I don't think there will be too many more volumes, but I really enjoy it. Spica Aoki really has an interesting way of telling a story, and I'm really excited to see where she goes. Next, I have one of my biggest surprises of this month, and that was Alice in Kyoto Forest, Volume 1. This is a really interesting take on an Alice in Wonderland style story, and in this one, Alice is trying to learn her purpose. She thinks she knows what it is and heads to Kyoto Forest and learns that that's not really her purpose. And so it's very interesting, and I'm really intrigued to see where this goes because she made a connection in her very young years that she didn't realize she made. So we don't know too much about that yet, and I'm excited to learn more. Next, I read Volume 17 of Komi Can't Communicate. In this one, we face the confrontation that has been building basically since Volume 11. So I'm very excited and pleased with how this ended because it ended in a way that felt realistic to all parties involved. And I'm really excited to see how Komi continues and what Komi does now that certain things have happened. I can't spoil things, y'all. I'm not a spoiler. Next, I read Volume 6 of Prince Freya. This was a very solid installment in the series. I can understand why some people don't love this one quite as much as some of the others that I love, but I still really enjoy my time with it and would recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. And in this one, we learn a little bit more about certain commitments and certain promises that were made between our two guys and Freya and the previous prince. So it's fantastic. I love it. And the art. Oh. Next, I have Golden Japanesque Volume 5. In this one, there's not too many more volumes left of this one. I think it's still technically ongoing in Japan, but I think we've got 2, maybe 3 more volumes left of story to tell is all. But it's a really interesting take on a Little Mermaid style story. And so I'm very intrigued at the comparisons that are happening and the things that are happening and the choices that are being made. So yes, I'm very, very excited to see where this one goes. Because basically we're at the point where our main couple has been forced to break up and things have to progress from here, and we're going to see what happens. Next, I have A Tropical Fish Yearns for Snow, Volume 8. This is the penultimate volume in this high school-style Yuri series, in which people have to face the fact that as you grow, sometimes you separate from the people you love. And so I'm really interested to see how this one rounds out in the next volume. Next, I have Volumes 1 and 2 of The Case Files of Jeweler Richard. This is a fantastic story. I'm pretty sure one of our characters is bisexual, and it's so great. I really love the direction of the series. They have that almost like Sherlock and Watson kind of dynamic to them, as well as there maybe being romance between them. It's fantastic. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I love it. It's so good. And you learn a lot about various jewels and how people look at them and their values, depending on what's going on in their life. It's fantastic. I love it so much. Would recommend. Next, I finished Our Teachers Are Dating. A series review coming soon, but I love it. That's all you need to know. Next, I read Volume 2 of Bad Boys Happy Home. I really enjoyed this installment. There's only one more volume left in the series, so I'm really excited to see where it goes. But the boys actually go on a date in this one, and we learn some things about one of our guys, about their past and about how that's probably going to affect how things go in the next volume. We're getting close, not too many more. I think my body finally figured out how it's going to be happy for a minute. Next, I read I Can't Believe I Slept With You. Essentially, this is about a woman who's struggling to pay her bills, and she makes a deal with her landlord that if she does something to make the landlord happy for a day, she'll forgive her back rent and she'll get paid a certain amount to catch up. And it's really interesting because the landlord is attracted to women and is very attracted to the tenant. And it's about how things progress from there. It's really cute. I wasn't so sure in the beginning how I was going to feel about things, but it's progressing in a way that I'm quite enjoying. So would recommend checking it out. You know you're an old lady when you have to change the way you're sitting way too often. Next, I have Yagi, the bookshop goat. This is a really cute story about a goat who works in a bookshop and he gets in trouble because he eats the books. But the owner of the bookshop has feelings for Yagi, and so it's really cute because he basically lets Yagi get away with way too much. But Yagi is also very talented in detecting a good story from a bad story, and it's really well done. It's just a single volume. It's really adorable, and I would recommend it. Next, I have There Are Things I Cannot Tell You. I can't tell you, sorry. And this is one where I kind of go back and forth about how I feel. I'm not sure I'm going to keep this one. I think it does a lot of things really well, and it's a darker, more realistic take on a relationship, but I think certain things within the relationship are too easily forgiven that puts it at almost a toxic level. So this is just me knowing that this is geared towards teens and not wanting to promote toxic relationships. So essentially, I'm giving this one a 4 for now. But again, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this one in my collection or not. We'll see. Next, I have I Am the Cat Lord's Manservant Volume 2. It is adorable. I really love how this one is progressing. And I'm pretty sure that there's a couple more volumes left in this one. I don't remember. Maybe it's finished. I can't remember. But it's really cute. I really love it. And I'm really excited to see what happens if it continues. 5 more. We've totally got this. Next, I have Jack Flash and the Fairy Case Files Volume 4. I continue to enjoy this series and the installments within it. Then again, I just really love the world that Ancient Magus Bride takes place in. And in this one, we're based more in New York. And so it's very much dealing with cops, and it feels a little more police investigative rather than magical fantasy. So it has a very different feel to it, but it's still very fun and I would recommend. Next, I have The Dragon Knight's Beloved Volume 2. I really enjoyed this installment of the series, and I'm very much looking forward to how it's going to continue and progress. Because certain things are at play and afoot right now, and a new dragon has been born, and that's changed the whole dynamic of the area, and certain people are very much not okay with the changes that are being made, and the fact that this man has chosen this basically maidservant as his partner, and the dragons choose her too, and they're not okay with that. Anyways, it's adorable. I love it. Would recommend. Next, I have Scattering His Virgin Bloom by Ayasakyo, I think is how you say that. But this is Omegaverse. It's very much Omegaverse. And Omegaverse is a really interesting animal. I definitely wouldn't recommend this for everybody. This is not a universal recommendation because Omegaverse has some certain tropes within it that are not okay. And this one, I think, is falling into one of those, which is an incest kind of thing. It's at least hinted at in the background. So just know that that's present. But I did really enjoy my time. It's a bonkers way of looking at an Omegaverse, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. So, though I enjoy it, I know it's not going to be for everybody. This is definitely not a universal recommendation. Next, I read the next installment in I Hear the Sunspot, which is Theory of Happiness. I really enjoyed this installment in the series, and I know that I've got 3 more to go, and that makes me really happy. And it was really interesting to see how these two move and progress forward in their friendship into a possible relationship. And I really just found it to be very interesting and intriguing all the way through. So again, another one I would solidly recommend to everyone, because going through the ups and downs, especially at the ages that they are romantically, makes complete sense, and it all works very, very well. And then the last one that we're going to talk about in this wrap up is one that, again, surprised me, and that is Magic Artisan Dahlia Wilts No More. So this kind of has a Snow White with the red hair kind of vibe. Essentially, this girl's been mousy. She's lived her life a certain way to protect herself, and all of a sudden, her father passes away, and everything falls apart around her. And she has trusted someone that she shouldn't have trusted. And so this is about her gaining her footing again and moving forward and progressing in everything that she is. And it's fantastic. I really love it. And I'm really excited to see how this one progresses, because this first volume was definitely a solid installment, and it gripped me in a way that makes me really want to continue. So this is high on my collection list, where some of these are going to be a bit lower. And if I, have some extra money or whatever, that's when I pick those up. But this is high on my collect list. All right, guys, I know this video has been a very, very long one for you. If you're here and you made it all the way through, leave a cake emoji, because you definitely deserve a treat. And yes, thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Was it all just a dream, just all in my